Hey everybody, welcome back. This is the fourth installment of my Multiplied Gems Fundamentals series. And today we're going to be talking about when to use Sherri versus when to use Mosh. This is going to be a much lighter video than my last one, which was Leo versus zombies. Because in this video, we really are comparing apples to apples. We're just comparing how many extra gems get thrown out onto the gem board. Whereas the Leo versus zombies conversation required a calculator because it's an apples versus oranges comparison. Zombies are adding damage based off of base gems, where Leo is adding 3 more instances to a multiplied gem, which takes total gem damage. Two completely different things. You can't make them the same, which is why you have to have 2 different calculations to compare and contrast them. Sherri and Mosh are just adding more multiply gems in one form or another. Okay, so it's much easier to figure out. No spreadsheet required. It's just going to be calculator day. Okay, and I'll explain all the calculator stuff so you can do it yourself. Okay, and so you can kind of do it on the fly. We'll also talk about what style of cards you just can't use. Some of these cards you can't use Mosh on at all, and Sherri is the clear favorite, and there's some where Mosh is the clear favorite. And when we really dig into it, I'm kind of going to focus on cards that Mosh helps out, because I will have eliminated all the other, well, not all the other ones, but some of the styles of cards that only work with Sherri. Okay, that'll make sense later, I hope. This will also probably be my last of my Multiply Gem series for a while. There's really only about 2 other conversations I could think about having with multiply gems. One is a dedicated video on Leo versus zombies and their primary color, which gets a little bit closer to a wash than the generic zombie versus Leo conversation. However, you can figure that out yourself in the gem damage calculator, link below. And then the other conversation we could have is explaining why there are obsolete multiply gem trainers in the game. Stuff like Showboat Miz and Striker Loomis and Matt Hardy, Mimrock, Zombie Taker, stuff like that. Those cards are relatively obsolete nowadays with the +2 MP, +2 multiply trainers, Sherri, Leo, zombies, stuff like that. Mosh have pretty much rendered the cards I initially said obsolete, and would only have very limited use cases, like you run out of trainers and you're setting up a feud lineup. That's really the only time I could see using any of those trainers anymore. And I'm going to have a conversation about that. I can have a conversation about Leo and the targeted zombies. So, like Zombie Bailey put on a card that breaks a lot of multiply red, stuff like that. We can have that conversation if you'd like. Just let me know in the comments, and I'll get to it. But this is the last of the pressing topics on multiply gems that I've got for a while. All right. I've got about 6 cards that I want to go over that are kind of biased towards Mosh. So those are the first 6 that we're going to isolate. But before I do that, we're going to take a look at Mosh, we're going to take a look at Sherri, and then we're going to look at the cards that Mosh absolutely does not work on. Okay, so let's start with Sherri. Sensational Sherri. When you've got her maxed out at 34k, multiplied gems generated from moves will increase their strength by 4. It's just double Matt Hardy. It's that easy. If you're making a bunch of 10s, so you're throwing 10 10x multiplies out on the board, you now have 10 14x multiplies on the board. It's that easy. If you're throwing 10 5s, they're now 10 9s. If you're throwing 5 5s, they're now 5 9s. Stuff like that. Okay, Mosh just actually adds extra multiply gems. So kind of the same concept. He's just adding more gems that are going to be broken or calculated to be broken. His interestingly enough, is the only one in the game that I know of that's 24,999. I can't think of anything else that doesn't end in zeros, but Mosh, he's the oddball. Multiplied gems generated from moves will increase their strength by 1. And then moves that generate multiplied gems will create 5 more multiplied gems. So going back to our initial thesis here, if you have a card that makes 10x gems, Mosh will make 15 11x gems. Because you're creating 5 more multiply. You're increasing their strength by 1. Now, cards that will not work with Mosh, or not work but you could find better value elsewhere, is stuff like Heavy Metal Rhea Ripley. So when you choose a column to make into multiply gems, you don't get to make extras. It's still just 4 columns. It's basically a 1x7. Okay. Mosh would change this from strength 6 to strength 7, and that's it. That's all you get. Mosh's Matt Hardy would be better in this situation than Mosh. Okay. Over here, like Braun Breaker is the same way. You're choosing a 7x3 area to make into multiply gems of strength 5. I just wanted to check something. Mosh does not change that area. It's still a 7x3. They turn into multiplied gems of strength 6. But there are better trainers than Mosh when you're talking about areas. Okay. Anybody who creates a snowfall or a pyro of multiplies. So Funk, for example. Pyro gems that will modify all gems above and into multiplied gems. This does not get affected by Mosh because it is just area again, but you have to break the pyros to do it. They turn into multiplied gems of strength 6, but they don't actually add any more multiplied gems. So Mosh doesn't provide a lot of value there. Same thing happens with multiplies that are generated from jugs or countdowns. So this right here, where it makes a 3x3 random area and a multiplied gems of strength 5. Even if it didn't, even if this was not a 3x3 and it just said, just spit out 15 random, Mosh does not affect that. Only Uncle Howdy affects that. I guess Howdy is a card I can make a video about. Once I get Howdy, I'll do another multiplied gems fundamental videos. How about that? Stay tuned. Next year at this time, I'll do a video on Uncle Howdy when I finally get him. So stuff like that. I'm not going to go through every single one of them. But if there's no way of generating extra multiply gems, then there is no reason to use Mosh. The last one we'll look at is Seth Rollins. He makes all black gems into multiplied gems of strength 4. That's a flat number, but the flat number is going to be constrained by how many black gems are on the board, right? If there's 25 black gems on the board, probably mathematically impossible. But if there is, all 25 of those get turned to black. If there's only two of those get turned to black. Mosh doesn't help outside of making the gems strength 4 to strength 5. Okay, so in all of those situations, if you're running Sherri, Sherri is better than Mosh, all of them. So Indy, Roxy, I think Giant, Giant, Braun Strowman, Razor, Mercy, Gunther, all of these, Julius, they don't use Mosh. Mosh doesn't help them. Mosh doesn't work for them. So that's not the conversation to be had. Sherri is the best in all of those situations. Now we'll get into the 6 where Mosh does make a difference. So let's go back down here a little bit and we'll take a look at Abby. Now there's a way to run Abby, if you wanted to, where you can basically use the 2 black moves. Okay. right here, where you're going to make 22 random gems into multiplied gems of strength 8. Okay. When we're going to do this math, let's take a look at the whole picture here. So I do have the moment. That's going to be multiplied gems will increase by 3. So that is now, we're working on essentially a base of 11. So that's the multiplied gems. And we're going to be making 22 of them. All right. So Sherri adds 4, right? So now we're at, instead of 11, sorry, we're at 15, and we're going to make 22 of them, okay? Now, the way to look at multiply gems, and I've talked about this before, is stacked instances. Meaning, multiply gems of strength 15 will take the total gem damage and kind of ping it 15 times and add it all together. So it's really like 15 gems stacked on top of each other. If you multiply those 15 gems stacked on top of each other by how many gems are on the board, say 22, you come up with 330. That's how many, if you break every single one of these, or even if you don't, if you sum the number of gem instances made with 22 gems on the board with Sherri, moment, and move, you come up with 330 of those gems. All right. So what happens if we put Mosh there instead? So we got 330, it's saved, so we can go back and look at it. We know we got 11 from moment and move, plus 1 from Mosh himself, that's 12. But instead of 22 gems, we're making 27 into multiplied gems. Puts us at 324. It's almost dead even. The difference of 6 gems is not going to make or break a move set. Is Sherri still better? Yeah, technically she is, by 6, of course. However, if you don't have Sherri, Mosh now turns into an almost identical trainer for Abby. You can run this moveset, or some variation of this moveset. This isn't, moveset video, but you run some variation of this with Mosh, and you would be 6 gems less in damage. And over the grand scheme of things, that's not that much, right? You're still going to be hitting huge by breaking that many gems, 330 versus 324. So it's almost a wash on Nikki Cross, but that's how you do the math to figure it out. Another one that's similar in concept is Sonya. Where's my Sonya? There she is. Sonya Deville runs 7 gems into multiplied gems of strength 10. That strength 10 turns into 14 in feuds. So we're going to go ahead and add that in there. So 7 gems times 14 multiplies is 98. That's how many extra gems you're adding on here. 7 times 14, 98. Sorry, that should have been 7 times. Okay, no. So you're getting 10 from the move plus 4 from the moment. Excuse me. 10 from the move plus 4 from the moment plus 4 from Sherri. That's 18 multiplied by 7. That's 126. There we go. That's the right number, is 126. I thought that looked too low. What happens if you add Mosh to it? Okay, so it's 10 from the move, 4 from the moment, 1 from Mosh. Now we're at 15. Multiplying that 15 by 12, we're at 180. That's significantly better. Sonya Deville works better with Mosh instead of Sherri. Now, in order to actually run this in feud, you need a middle line bonus and then a 4 and a Santa and blah, 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 blah. But it's there. And they won't overwrite each other because 35 plus 15 is 50. You might overwrite 1 or 2. But you're basically going to sum up the whole board with either cross breaks or multiplies, which is going to hit hard because you run Sonya Deville with plates that are boosted on cross breaks, blah, 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 blah. But Mosh is better on Sonya Deville. Full stop. My most significant factor. Okay. Who else do I got? There's one more. Where Mosh is better. And it's Bradshaw here. Not with this moveset, though. With this moveset. Triple red. So we're looking at multiplied gems of strength 7. We're only choosing 9 of them. All right. So 7 plus 4 for Sherri equals 11. Multiplied by 9 is 99. So with Sherri, you're going to have essentially 99 extra gems on the board, right? With Mosh, you're going to have 7 plus 1 equals 8. Nope. 7 plus 1 equals 8. But you're going to multiply that by 14 times. 112. That's 13 more gems. So Mosh is technically better. Okay. And that's how the math works. So whenever you're generically running a character where you're wondering where to put Sherri, or if to put Sherri, or if to put Mosh, this is the only thing you have to do is how big are the multipliers, multiplied by how many gems you're going to toss out. Whatever number is bigger is the trainer that you should go with. Okay. But there's some other situations here that make Mosh a little bit more versatile. One of those is like Donatello, for example. Donatello gets most of his value out of triggering the Jade Plate twice. Jade Plate is whenever you toss 10 or more multiplied gems, increase your green gem damage by 1, and his big hit turns everything into green. Plus, you got to reload, or you got to get your finisher loaded anyway, running him. These 2/6 moves here. When you start a game, the pin bar is in the middle, right? If you break 11 gems from the very beginning, you will pin your opponent. Well, these are multiplied gems of strength 7. What if you add Sherri to it? So you can't break a multiply gem. So you, in order to try to figure out how to actually run this, you're going to have to toss your multis, use your choose 7, bypass the multis, make sure you don't cascade into the multis to load this and load your multis again. So you'll have 40. At the end of that, you will have 40 random gems of strength 11. It's 440. If you add Mosh here, you're making 25 of strength 8. If you break one of these, which is 8, and then 2 more gems with this move, it's 10. Provided you don't cascade, you'll have this reloaded and this reloaded. You'll fill the entire board with multis. So that's 49 of them multiplied by strength 8. It's less, for sure, but it's safer. And the fact that it's safer makes it significantly better. Yeah, you'll hit harder with Sherri. Absolutely. No questions. No questions asked. You'll hit more reliably with Mosh. So if you do have another card where you're reliant on breaking a multiplied gem to fill up other moves to get off turn 1, you got to be conscious of the pin bar and not break the pin bar turn 1. Okay. Another card that's like that is, where's he at? Acro HBK. And I know I've probably talked about this before. Spike Piledriver only makes 3 random gems. Teardrop Suplex only makes 3 random blues into multiply gems. Just by adding Mosh, now you're at 8. There are 6 colors, I guess technically 7, including loot boxes, and you start with 49. So 49 divided by 7 different colors, theoretically, you should have 7 of each color on each starting board. Now, it doesn't always work that way. Sometimes you'll have 6, 5. Sometimes you'll have 8, 9, 10. But it will average out to 7. Well, 3 is cool. 7 is much better. That's really, I mean, like, what is that, 9? Yeah, 9 times 3 is 27. Or you could do 8 times 6, which is 48. 48 is almost double 27. A little less than double, but you know the idea. Mosh is significantly better than Shawn Michaels in this, or significantly better than Sherri in this situation. So that's also something to kind of take a look at and keep your eye on. The other thing, and the last one I'm really going to talk about here, and I kind of went over it already with Abby, but I want to go over it again because it's important, is the fact that it is in many times almost a wash between Sherri and Mosh. So if you don't have affiliation straps on either one of them, you don't have to worry. You're still kind of set up. There's 4 there. 4 and 4 means 8. So our base is 8 plus 4 with Sherri is 12. Multiplied by 18 gets us 216 on Batista here. Okay. Or you do 9 times 23, which is 207. Difference of about 11 gems. No, 9 gems. Again, not a huge difference in the grand scheme of things. All right. It's almost a wash. So really it's Sherri when it's either an area effect or you're kind of locked in, or it's a countdown or jug or something like that, or a trap, something that triggers multiplies coming out, is when you use Sherri, and that's the no-brainer. Mosh, do the math. Make sure you're making it make sense, because there's many times where Mosh is going to be a more viable trainer than you think, and sometimes will even be a better trainer than you think. Sometimes Mosh is what makes the card actually run, where Sherri just makes it look cooler. Okay. Yeah, that's all I've got on that. I hope that made sense. I hope this helped somebody. As always, if you've learned anything today, if you've been entertained by anything today, or if you just happen to like the sound of my voice, do me a favor, click like, click subscribe, and I'll talk to you next time.